I did my best the last hour or so, I guess, scouring the internet to try to find you a clip or any type of video of this press conference that WBA Super 160-pound champion Ryota Murata had against IBF 160-pound champion, now, 39-year-old Gennady Golovkin. I'm TstreeT Controversy with Fight View 360. If you don't know, it's official. It's happening December the 29th here in the States on DAZN. But you know what I found interesting here? Is that over in Japan, and I'm guessing other Asian territories, the fight's going to be taking place on Prime Video, hosting boxing, in a Saitama Super Arena. From the research I've done, seats about 22,000 or so. Golovkin, former WBC IBF and WBA 160-pound champion. His last fight was against Kamil Zameta. And then before that, he fought Sergey Derevianchenko in a fight where a lot of people felt that he lost. Golovkin, in my opinion, career has been on a real backslide since he fought Canelo those two times. And it seems as though the money or whatever has gotten to his head. I don't know. I'm just saying, because it's like his marketability and just his overall grasp on the sport. Like, Golovkin was a name in boxing a few years ago, 4 years ago. And now it's just like, oh, he fighting? Okay, all right, yeah, he might lose. 41, 1-1 with 36 KOs. Last fight was, by the time he steps in the ring, it'll be, 53 weeks? A year ago against Zameta. Stopped him in 7. Before that, Sergey Derevianchenko. Before that, his first fight with the DAZN. The DAZN, I'm guessing they can't be happy with these numbers that, he's produced for these fights, because nobody really gave a fuck about him. Even though the Derevianchenko fight was a good fight, people didn't really care about that shit. The Steve Rose fight, it was like, yo, that's kind of a smack in the face a little bit for a guy who's supposed to be making so much money. I forgot exactly how much his the DAZN deal is worth. Somebody can let us know down below in the description box. But before we get back to him, let's talk about Murata, who I'm giving a good chance to possibly pull off an upset. But will it really be an upset? 16-2 with 13 KOs. His last fight I covered against Stephen Butler. That was, by the time he steps into the ring, he'll be on a 2-year layoff. But you have to understand, the Japanese, or in Asian territories, their lockdowns have been really significant and affected a lot of their fighters, including guys like Naoya Inoue. So Stephen Butler, he had lost, and what was an upset at that time to Rob Brandt, and he was like outboxed in that fight. That's a fight that a lot of people are going to use as a barometer to be like, well, Golovkin's better than Rob Brandt, so he should be able to outbox him too. But Golovkin is 39 years old, for fuck's sakes. And then before that, 2 fights with Hassan Indam, one he lost, and a lot of people once again are going to say, Golovkin should be able to beat him, but he's got some crack to him, And how old is Murata, by the way? Let me check really quick. Because he's one of the type of fighters I've been covering for years, 35 years old, so he's not really that far off. But listen, I'm giving him a chance. And here's the thing, for a lot of people who still are holding on to a possible Canelo versus Golovkin 3, multiple things would have to happen. Golovkin will have to realize that Canelo is the A side. Canelo is not moving back down to 160 pounds, even though he's the current 160 pound franchise champion. He's currently undisputed at 168 pounds. In a lot of people's eyes, not mine, people felt Canelo won both fights. So on paper, Golovkin has a loss on his record and a draw to Canelo. So Canelo's going to be the A side. If Canelo says the only way this fight happens is if you come to 168 pounds, that's the only way it happens. But it seems as though Golovkin, may be really trying to go after undisputed here. Here, let's go look at the rankings and talk about the division. Jamal Charlo, my personal opinion, I won't be surprised. Fucking cold in here, my bad. I won't be surprised if Charlo vacates that 160-pound title and moves up if Canelo calls. to fight him in Cinco de Mayo of 2022. Because Canelo on the Brian Custer podcast said pretty much that he would prefer to fight Charlo over David Benavidez, who, if David Benavidez, who's fighting tonight, the day I'm shooting this video, by the way, against Karan Davis, he was supposed to fight a Jose Uzcategui to be the mandatory for Canelo's WBC and IBF championships. But as it stands right now, it's up in the air. So, meaning that Canelo, when he returns in May of 2022, that's what he said he's going to do. He said he's going to sit down with his team in January, February, and figure out who he's going to fight. By the way, Canelo versus Plant generated 800,000 plus minus pay-per-view buys, which at $80 a pop here in the States is about $64 million, and also a $17 million gate. And we're not counting overseas money or whatever. So Canelo is the A-side over Golovkin. If Golovkin wants to fight Canelo, Canelo's going to probably say, hey, you got to move up and weight, and it's not going to be no catch weight shit. You can't tell me, you know? And from what we've seen from Golovkin, even though he's still good, the fact that he's been reluctant in both Canelo fights, which could have been a significant a turning point or factor, he's neglected to go to the body. In this day and age, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pick Canelo to beat him. Canelo stood his ground in the second fight. I'm going to have to. I still want to see the fight, though. But it's not a fight where I'm like, here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. I would rather see Canelo versus Golovkin over Canelo versus Charlo and Canelo versus Benavidez. But I'm not going to be calling for it. You see what I'm saying? Because one thing it would do is it would close out that chapter. And I do feel Canelo has the plan to fight Golovkin one day again if he keeps winning. But once again, that's going to be probably when Golovkin's 40 years old. You see what I'm saying? So we can go on all day talking about Canelo versus Golovkin, but let's talk about Golovkin's or Murata's path to undisputed. The winner should fight Demetrius Andrade. If Demetrius Andrade beats Jason Quigley next week, I believe he's fighting November the 20th. They're all on the same time frame right here. For example, Gabriel Rosado and Jaime Munguia are fighting. Munguia is right now ranked number 1 by the WBC and the WBO, but I don't see Munguia, if he beats Rosado, fighting Jamal Charlo. So I'm going to go ahead and say it makes perfect sense. If Golovkin is going to stay at 160 and try to be undisputed, to finish what he started before he ran into Canelo, if he beats Murata, don't bullshit around. In April or so, fight Demetrius Andrade. You know, if Canelo calls around September or so, all right, take the fights. You can still lose, you know, and come back down to 160. But at this point in time, how many years does Golovkin really have left? 2, 3. So he needs to be fighting twice a year. Hell, he can, fight 3 times a year. If he's fighting in December, he can fight in April or May, you know, August, and then end the year out in December or so. But I'm sorry, I have some questions about, you know, like where Golovkin is mentally right now. You see what I'm saying? I have some questions, you know, and concerns. But with that being said, I think we pretty much talked about everything I wanted to talk about with Golovkin versus Murata, a fight that I'm looking forward to. By the way, December the 29th, let me check for you. I believe that's like a Wednesday morning. That's when they usually have their fights over in Japan. And the main event's going to be something like 8 a.m. Eastern time. You know, something like 5 a.m., you know, Pacific. So that's something to remember. But I expect for this fight to do big, major numbers over in Japan. I believe the arena, Saitama, how do you pronounce it? City Arena, seats something like 22,000 or so. I expect huge numbers because Murata generates huge numbers. Here, let me read this article here for you from fightnews.com. Let's see here. Yep. Saitama Arena in Japan, the 29th. Let's see here. Capacity, which is some 22,000. It's going to be on Prime Video. So interesting to see how that's going to work out. Why is Floyd here? Anyway, take your time out, like the video, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy. Do I have my Twitter up here? Yeah, here we go. At TstreeT Controversy. Also, take your time out. Down below in the description box, I put a link several links, one to my Twitter, to my Twitch, to the WBC app powered by the Vive Network. Is going to come in handy soon. Please subscribe if you haven't. Take your time out, like the video. TstreeT Controversy with Fight V360.